Monday morning. Hope you had a great weekend. Thanks for joining us on KCMO 95.7 FM. So we're less than a week removed from, of course, the stunning defeat. Not that the defeat itself was stunning, but the margin was obviously stunning. When you look back to last Tuesday and what happened here in Jackson County, and that was a 58-42 no vote for the Chiefs and the Royals' 3.8-cent sales tax. The only person on the Kansas City, Missouri City Council to officially come out as a vote no, as far as I can tell, is our next guest, Jonathon Duncan. He's a new member of the City Council. He is, yes, heavily involved with the KC Tenants organization. We know where they stood on this. But it's very interesting that this crossed party lines. It crossed political interests. And that's what makes this one of the more interesting votes and elections in recent Kansas City region history. Jonathon, good morning. Thanks for being here. How surprised were you by the margins last week?
I actually wasn't very surprised, Pete. I thought this was going to be a blowout. I'd had to temper my expectations, my hope. I was hoping that it would fail. But I think you very aptly put on social media that the lines that were crossed, right? We talked about party lines, really divided down economics. And, when the regular Joe Jackson County voter can't afford to take their kids to a game anymore, and they have owners worth billions of dollars who are asking essentially for a handout from taxpayers, a regressive tax, a sales tax that's going to hurt poor and working class people more than wealthy folks. It was very clear to me that this was going to fail, and I thought it would fail by a lot.
Why do you think then, having the pulse of that as you did and as I think we did here and just talking to people on the streets over the last bunch of months, why do you think your colleagues were afraid, or maybe afraid's the wrong word, but why did they not see what seemed pretty obvious to a lot of people and they didn't want to come out against this thing?
Yeah, I won't speak for my colleagues, Pete, but I had a very real fear that if my projections were wrong and this did pass, that I would be left out of the negotiating table to actually make asks on behalf of Kansas City residents in return for what would have been an unprecedented handout to some billionaire team owners. And I wanted to be a part of those conversations, just as I'm sure my colleagues want to be a part of those conversations. So that was a risk, but I felt that it was a risk worth taking because I think it was important that the people who I represent, which are the people of the 6th District, which for your listeners incorporates the Plaza, incorporates Brookside, Waldo, all the way down to Martin City. I thought it was important for them and for everyone else in Kansas City. I'm a public official to know where I stood on one of the most important political issues, I think, in the, what would you say, Pete, in the last 20 years?
Yeah, certainly. It's been a while, probably since the airport, I would say, at the very least, when it comes to top issues here people are talking about in this town. So as you went around the district and this thing came up, was it really just about, I know that KC Tenants are big advocates of yours, was it just about them or was it also just folks who may not be involved or frankly be all that supportive of KC Tenants who also said to you they were against this?
Just as you said before, it has little to do with the involvement of KC Tenants and more to do with a general feeling of a lack of respect. The teams don't exist without their fans, and the funding doesn't exist without taxpayers. And largely, what I heard over and over again is that the threats that were made by the teams that we are taking your beloved teams, we're taking your beloved players, the Michael Jordan of our era, Patrick Mahomes, and we're going somewhere else. It felt disrespectful. And I will say, I listened to your talk with the mayor the other day and reviewing postmortem, and having done a couple campaigns myself now, it's important to look and say, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? And it's apparent to me by the comments of Mark Donovan, who said that that the teams put forth their best effort. It's apparent to me, and that they're going to review all of their options still, that they're still not respecting Jackson County voters. And that's unfortunate, because the strategy of threatening to take these teams away, that we're going to keep all of our options on the table, these veiled threats, it didn't work. It didn't work the first time, and it's not going to work the next time. And I'm hoping that's not an indication that they're done negotiating. But I haven't had any conversations with them.
So you are okay with, and you want them, it sounds like, to come back to the table just with a better deal, theoretically. So what would that look like? Because as you note, sales taxes are regressive in nature. I mean, they do impact working folks more than they do those at the higher end of the income bracket. So would you endorse any kind of sales tax involved deal if it's better, or as far as you're concerned, is a sales tax of any kind off the table?
I think a sales tax of any kind, in my view, if I were the lead negotiator, would be off the table for the very same reasons that you mentioned. Sales tax hurt poor working class people, the lower ends of the economic spectrum, than they do the higher ends of the economic spectrum. I think there's a lot of teams that have been able to build stadiums, new stadiums, without a regressive tax, such as a sales tax. A use tax on ticket sales. I think there's a number of different ways that don't hurt poor and working class Jackson Countyans, or anybody shopping in Jackson County. And I would love to see, I think it's interesting, Pete, that these teams, again, these team owners have billions of dollars. They have a whole cadre of negotiators, and they were unable to come up with something outside of the box. And I think that they have a responsibility to provide us a plan. Voters rejected resoundingly the plan that they provided, and they have a responsibility to come back and say, hey, listen, we heard you, and here's something new. What do you think? And really negotiate with all players involved. I'm seeing reports from small business owners in the Crossroads who not only feel vindicated, they said, we didn't think this was possible. And I think that is the sentiment that a lot of people had, right? That this tax is just going to come. The billionaires want it. In fact, I remember during the campaign, the mayor was speaking, I think, to Mr. Mahoney. And he said, well, rich people want it, so it's probably going to happen. And it's just not something that I buy into. That's not why I ran for office. The people run this city. The people of Jackson County run this county, and it's the people who run things, not billionaires and millionaires. And so it's why I ran for office, Pete. I want to represent, the people who don't feel that their voice is actually heard in City Hall, the people who don't feel that their voice matters in situations such as this. And $3 million was spent, more than $3 million was spent on this campaign, and the people said, I don't think so. And I think a lot of people should reflect on that and say, we have the power, right? If we work across party lines, if we want to see something, then we have the power to make that happen.
Jonathon Duncan, 6th District Councilman, Kansas City, Missouri, the only guy that came out before the election as a vote no endorser or supporter. And obviously, the average Jackson County voter sent a big message last Tuesday. Jonathon, thank you for the time. We appreciate it, and have a great day.
Absolutely, Pete. Thank you.
All right, Jonathon Duncan on KCMO Talk Radio, 913-408-7957. It's weird. You talk about a guy that he's a veteran, by the way. I mean, he's got a pretty interesting background, Jonathon Duncan. He is a veteran of the Iraq War, and he came back, ran for office. He's in his first term. He's a year in. He was, yes, heavily endorsed by KC tenants. But on this issue, man, it did cross all political spectrums, and that's what made it so fascinating and, frankly, such a big loser as well after last Tuesday night's results.